person understand how fiction works. Hey y'all, it's Nat. I hope you're having a terrific day today, and for this video, I am going to be reacting to 1-star reviews of some of my best books for the year. Alright, so before I get into anything bookish, make sure to hit like and subscribe down below, as well as tell me in the comments, what is one of your best books of the year? So honestly, I fell into a little bit of a reading slump and needed to do something to put off reading vlogs so that I would have time to actually finish the books. I was like, okay, what's something that's really entertaining that I don't have to read anything for? And I came up with doing one of these. I'm honestly pretty excited because I did one last year and had a lot of fun with it. We're gonna go through and you're gonna get a sneak peek at some of my best books for the year, and I'm gonna see if I can hurt my feelings by reading 1-star reviews of them. Some of these I think will hurt my feelings a little bit more than others, one way or another though. It's gonna be interesting. Starting at the top is going to be one that I don't think will be particularly surprising if you've spent any time on my channel so far this year. A Power Unbound by 𝗖cie bych. I'm going to go with the third book in the series. This is the third book in the Last Binding trilogy. On the whole, this trilogy is definitely up there on my best books of the year list. I had so much fun. I binged through them, which is not something I do very often, especially if I binge through the whole series. That like immediately tells me I love it. And this one, listen, I just really enjoy the antagonistic opposites attract, like different classes combination of tropes that we get to see between the main characters Jack and Alan. It is so much fun. And then this is also probably the spiciest of the series, I would say. But the plot itself also kind of comes full circle, and there's a lot of entertaining moments as the team of characters are trying to officially protect the magical society they know, while at the same time like fighting against these people who are trying to hold up these unfair practices in the magical system they know. So all in all, I was super here for this one. Between the plot, the romance, the characters, all of it was working great for me. Okay, so this one looks like it's going to be pretty good. I am so disappointed by Power Unbound, as I had high hopes for this series finale. My experience with the Last Binding trilogy was a roller coaster, as I liked the first book, didn't like the second book, and then I hated the last book. Disagree. I liked the first book, I loved the second book, and I really loved the third book. I think 𝗖cie bych has potential as a writer, but she hasn't been able to recreate the magic of A Marvelous Light. Again, hard disagree, but whatever. It has been a long time since I gave a book only 1 star, but A Power Unbound was a chore to get through, and I seriously considered DNFing it, which I haven't done for years. In the end, I held on as I wanted to see how the series was resolved, and even that wasn't satisfying. It's such a shame, as I was very excited to read Lord Hawthorne's and Alan's story after liking them in the previous book. Ow. It's fine. The first and foremost problem was that Power Unbound never felt like Hawthorne's and Alan's story. They're like the main perspectives. Every book had a main couple, and I'm beginning to think the authors should have chosen an ensemble cast for this book. It would have made more sense to introduce multiple POVs from most of the characters. I don't really think that was needed. From what I remember, I can accept that thought process, especially because it's a fantasy series and towards the end of the fantasy series, so like there's a lot of moving parts, and I could see how it would be beneficial to have multiple perspectives. I'll give her that one. Instead of trying to force Hawthorne's romance into a book that left no space for it, disagree. Hawthorne and Alan felt like bystanders in what was supposed to be their book. Again, like I just know they're like very active participants in a lot of the plot. With everything else going on, they were so passive and felt like observers rather than active participants. It almost felt like they were witnessing the characters from the previous books do all the work, and they were completely sidelined by Maud, Violet, Edwin, and Robin, even though these couples already had their own books. I also didn't buy the romance between Hawthorne and Alan. In theory, their dynamic should have appealed to me, but like everything else, it felt underdeveloped and rushed. Clearly, I disagree. It was also uncomfortable to read about their class differences and how they weren't well explored. I mean, I can get that this story has so much else going on in it that I don't really think there was time to put more emphasis on the class differentiation between the two of them. Alan is the only character who doesn't come from money and is aware he's only part of the team as long as he's useful. Also, not technically true. Violet does not come from money either. She just actually ends up inheriting it, and we do see that talked about in her book. In general, the plot was so messy and all over the place. The audiobook is 17 hours long, and it felt like it was never ending. I mean, I like blasted through it, but whatever. I struggled to get through this book as it was painfully boring. Some issues I had with weak world building and magic system resurfaced. I mean, that one I will give to her because I still had a kind of difficult time with the world building in this series on the whole, but I enjoyed so much else of the books that I honestly felt like that was something I could very easily forgive. The hunt for the last contract wasn't even exciting, and it felt like everything was either predictable or painfully drawn out. I couldn't tell you much about the plot as it tried to do too many things at once. Only the very ending was action-packed. The resolution of the main plot lines were disappointing and so vague. I still don't know what it means for the future of Magic Kind. I mean, I can't really comment on this without diving into spoilers, but like, across the board, I disagree. I'm not gonna dive into the entirety of this review, but no, heart hands, this did not eat so bad that I don't even think the food was in the same galaxy as the book. Just from reading the rest of this person's review, it very much seems like this author's writing style around romance does not appeal to them. I would break up the book like this: first half trash, 50 to 75% better, 75 to end trash. Okay, so on to the next novel. This one, honestly, kind of unusual for me to have a book like this in my top 5 of the year. Really enjoyed my reading experience with it. It's one that I've looked back on very fondly, and I've actually recommended this book to a few people at this point in my life. So I definitely think it warrants its place. Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. So I read this one as a part of my Galactathon readathon because I needed a book that had a time loop element, which this like kind of has a time loop, but it also has almost like reverse time travel where we were following a woman who unfortunately one night sees her teenage son commit a terrible crime in front of their house, and then the next day she wakes up and it is the day prior, and she starts to live the timeline of events in reverse so that she can try and figure out what happened to lead her son down this path and how she can stop it. And I really liked it. I think it was very creative, really cleverly done. The writing style itself I just had a good time with, and I got so invested with the main character, and there were a lot of little elements that came up with the story that because of this timeline I wouldn't have thought, but once the author dived into them, it was like, that makes so much sense, and I really appreciate how that makes this whole situation even more difficult. So I clearly really liked this one, and I'm very intrigued to look at 1-star reviews of it, given the fact that I feel like, honestly, I've only heard positive things about this book. I think I've only ever seen like one middling review. I am really curious as to why did people give this 1 star. Okay, perfect. First one's nice and short. I'm honestly impressed that I finished this book. What a chore this was to read / finish. I felt nothing for the characters, the story, the twists, if that's what you even want to call them, the choppy writing style. Not a fan of unnecessarily repeating phrases or words 3 times throughout the entire book. This is something I've learned recently, is apparently this repetitive writing style actually really works for me. I really tend to enjoy it. TJ Klune uses it a lot as well, but I know there's plenty of people who do not like it. It felt like listening to a mother's memories of her life, wishing she were more present. Yes, you and every other mom. It dragged on and on until around 80% in, and then things started to lazily come together. Take a pass on this one. Wow, okay, very unexpected. Next, Hey Alexa, play Wrong Way by Sublime. Because Wrong Place, Wrong Time is the perfect example of the wrong way to write a book about time travel. This story is all about Jen traveling back in time, but really no plot ever develops. If that were true, the story would not be solved. The mystery would not be resolved at the end, but okay. Sis keeps waking up to the previous day, then the previous day, then the previous day, and it's just like, okay, cool, this is happening. Okay, cool. Zero action in this book. Zero. You're right, there's not a lot of action. It's mystery solving. If you're looking for a fast-paced page turner, this ain't the book for you. Okay, disagree. I blasted through this one. If you're looking for a thriller, do not read this book. I did the legwork for you. You're welcome. It's literally not a thriller. If you're already hesitant about Reese's book club books, listen to your heart and skippity doo dah on this one. Oh my god, that's so funny. Strongly disagree with this review on the whole. We just clearly had very different reading experiences. But her review is hilarious, so respect, honestly. This is a very emotional read that will break your heart on multiple occasions. There are twists and turns you didn't see coming that will want you to go back to the beginning and reread immediately. So why did I give it 1 star? Because I, despite everything, hated this book. Why? Let me break it down for you. I'll admit you got me really intrigued. The world building. Almost nothing about this book makes sense, and the world building is the first to notice. Even though the author claims to have researched time travel and the laws of physics, I'm sorry to say it doesn't work. You just can't time travel in real life. And the efforts to explain how the MC can do it in this book just sound lame to me. Give me a slight fantasy or magical realism with trolls or fairies living in the forest close to the family, and I would have accepted time travel without consequence. Now it made me feel like the author knew herself it wouldn't work and tried desperately to find justification for it. Just no, it doesn't seem authentic. Sci-fi exists, hun. I mean, that's why I read this for a sci-fi readathon, because I would say this is a sci-fi story. This is a contemporary thriller with a sci-fi twist. Okay, and I mean, time travel in itself is such a complicated one if you want to go logic based with it. I mean, there's so many debates about the different abilities of time travel. So, police force. The author writes, as do many, any errors are my own, after explaining why she wrote how the police force operates in this book. But I'm sorry to say, again, you can't just bend reality to fit your purposes. Does this person understand how fiction works? The police does not work in real life as they do in this book, and it is set in the real world. The whole situation just made me cringe. Even I seem to know more about police operations after extensively listening to a police podcast than this author did after research. Again, just know, the whole plot hinges on something that can't be. Can't write more because of spoilers, but I was upset reading about it. I think maybe you should try nonfiction, specifically true crime. That sounds like something you may enjoy. The ending. No, I didn't like it. It was anticlimactic and just plain weird. It did not leave me fulfilled, rather wondering, okay, was this it? The buildup was for this? That one I just, again, I got really invested. I had a great time. So clearly we had a different experience, but Next up, in a pretty different direction, is Bat Eater and Other Names for Corzang by Kylie Lee Baker. One of my best horror books of the year so far. Honestly, it wraps up every element of horror stories that I enjoy together, and I think it did a really solid job in doing so. There are certain elements in it that I do already think are gonna be kind of divisive, and I don't know if people will enjoy, so I'm very interested to see what are the 1 stars gonna look like here. Alright, this started off strong, very interesting and intense, but around 30% in, it just starts to drag and never recovers. Cora has no personality, and her friends / coworkers are far more fascinating. This book will depress you for sure. The cover art is the best thing about this book. I should have DNF'd this one. Not for me. Yikes. I personally really liked Cora. She does have personality. It's not immediately easily showcased on the surface. That's kind of part of the benefit of being in her head and learning her perspective on things and how she lives her life. And disagree, but whatever. 1 star. It's a horror book that reads like a bedtime story. Instead of getting scared, I kept falling asleep while reading this. I mean, is this the scariest horror book I've ever read? No, but I felt like Baker did a really great job of maintaining this really uncomfortable, something's around the corner tone and atmosphere throughout the story. So I was constantly on edge, not falling asleep, but to each their own, I suppose. I feel disappointed because the premise sounds interesting and has a mix of genres that I adore. However, the writing was incredibly boring and it's putting me on a reading slump. There is hardly any dialogue, so we're stuck inside the main character's head, which has very long and monotonous inner monologues. It didn't help that Cora, the main character, is a personality vacuum. She's so dull, just like the writing. I kept trying to read, but nothing was going on in the book. It is gory, but even the scary scenes felt underwhelming to read. I'm sorry. I really wanted to like this book because it highlights the racism and Asian hate during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm also fond of Asian horror books, but this didn't work for me. Honestly, Cora's personality was not what I thought people were going to be complaining about when it came to 1-star reviews of this book. Again, I liked Cora. I thought she was a really interesting character to get to know, especially seeing how she starts in the beginning and the development of her character throughout this. I really, really enjoyed her. As far as the inner monologues go, yes, it's a very character-based story revolving around Cora, and those are the kind of stories I tend to enjoy, so maybe this person doesn't, but again, just not what I thought people would be complaining about. Expected a horror novel, but got a super offensive social commentary on racism. Kylie Lee Baker was one of my favorite authors and an auto-buy for me, but she clearly hates me for being white, so I feel a little silly now. That's... okay. That's a take to have. I wonder if this person's a gymnast, the way they jumped to conclusions like that. Okay, this one's actually funny. Didn't finish, couldn't get into it. Book overview says Cora is Chinese American who notices an increase of cases of Asian American women post-COVID. I've read over 50 pages, and what Cora should realize is that she needs a therapist. I mean, I do not disagree with that statement. Wow, again, like I've scrolled through so many reviews at this point, and the one thing I thought would be like the divisive element, the thing that would make people not like this book and give it 1 star, I haven't seen a single person mention. So, okay, apparently I was wrong about that. So next up is one that honestly, I didn't know if there would actually be many 1-star reviews. It's Tempest Breaker by Calvin Scott. This is an audio drama in the Star Wars universe following one of my favorite villainous characters of this timeline, Lorna D. She actually initially starts out as a princess and then eventually becomes a pirate, like a right hand to this almost terrorist leader, and then being mistaken for him and hunted down, which kind of forces her to break away from this group and forge her own path. I really love Lorna, and so going in, I wasn't really sure if there would be a ton of reviews to look at in the first place, let alone any 1-star reviews of this one, but there actually are a few. They're not super wordy, so I'll just probably go through all of them. Starting at the top. I found this really hard to focus on. I couldn't care less about Lorna D, who has been almost entirely absent and not missed in Phase 3. I missed her desperately. At this point, I'm just crawling toward the end of the High Republic. There's been some good stuff in Phase 3, but this one didn't capture my attention. Clearly, we have different taste in characters. 1.5 stars. It feels like this was trying to juggle too many plates. On one hand, it wants to wrap up Lorna D's arc, but in the context of the audio dramas, it's missing the entire middle of her story that took place over other books and comics. That's unfortunately just an element that comes up with reading stuff in this universe because there's so many different stories in different formats. I personally would love to read more of Lorna's story that took place between these 2 audio dramas focused on her. Haven't gotten there yet. Even still though, I felt like this story was still well done enough to the point you can enjoy how it closes out her character arc. It also tries to fit this story into the larger narrative of the High Republic story without actually being able to affect anything because the audio dramas are a niche within a niche. It's valid, honestly. There is some development of things, but it's more like assistance towards things that will lead to actually making steps fighting against the Nihil. I'll give him that, honestly. So on its own, this ends up feeling like a story that you are missing key context to appreciate the characters, and one that also must be entirely undone before it's over so as not to rock the boat in the main story too much. And I don't really agree with that because again, like I think it's more just a matter of the development that actually does happen is not as much as you would expect, but it is really more wrapped up in like the character of Lorna D and the dynamics she has with some of the other characters that are more pivotal in the story on the whole. Oh, and then this poor guy, I just don't think he realized this was an audio drama. This might be a good novel, but it's hard to tell given the awkward script format. I hope this isn't a new trend for Star Wars books. Because if you look at the actual physical novels, yes, they are broken down like a script, because they are definitely much more enjoyable on audio. And then lastly is one that honestly I am fully expecting will be a fair amount of 1 stars because though I loved this book, there is much there with the characters that I see some people are going to dislike. I am already expecting that some people are not going to love how, I will admit, like a little immature and name-cally and like pigtail pulling these characters can be towards each other. I'm talking about Well Actually by Maisie Eddings. I loved this book, but I will fully say it's one where you have to be okay with your characters being a little mean to each other, like calling each other names and stuff. Is it mature? No, but it's so entertaining, and it's even more entertaining when along the way they're both like such huge simps for one another. So TBH, I was very confused and irritated this entire book. The female main character is so rude, it's almost unbearable, no accountability, nothing. Partly plays into her character, just like who she is, and start to understand like why she is that way, but she definitely has an arc in this. She's also in love with the guy, obviously, but continues to just be rude and vindictive because of something he did years ago. That's the setup of the story. You obviously still care about him if you did what she did, so stop making excuses. Either be with him or don't. Babe, did you read the book? Did you comprehend what was happening with the characters and the evolution they go through in the story, the healing and maturing? The male main character continuously switches between using his first name and his last name, and I couldn't keep up half the time. Also, he's so boring. The name thing, it's literally 2 names. Okay. As for being boring, disagree. This dude is a huge ass quirky dork. This man is a manic pixie dream boy, and I mean that as a compliment. The author made sure this book was current to the year. If you had read this a year ago, you wouldn't understand half of the references. I don't necessarily agree with that. There are pop culture references in here, especially given the fact that this story revolves around two characters whose lives are very prevalent on social media, so it's not surprising that social media plays an important role in the story. That said, I feel like most of the references used have been around for a while. She name drops and references a bunch of memes, viral videos that are popular now in January 2025, but if I read this when it came out, half of it would be ancient history. Again, I guess that comes down to like if you like pop culture or like current media stuff in your stories. I don't tend to mind it. I guess this person really doesn't like it. Also, don't get me wrong, I live for LGBT plus and racially diverse characters in books, but to an extent. Don't just throw the characters in the book with no backstory for the sake of having the characters in your book. Literally every character that I remember whose race or sexuality is mentioned does have some sort of a backstory with one or both of the main characters and ends up playing a role in the story. So okay. Also, her best friend slash producer was a bitch the entire story. I don't know if it's just me, but no. And again, did you read the book? Also, her boss. Like, I see the warning at the beginning, but I think it's just so unnecessary in a book for a person's boss to be such a bad human being and the person does nothing about it. Girl, quit. Find another job. I skipped half the book just to get to the end, and even the epilogue was boring. You may as well just say you DNF'd it. It's 2025 and I'm still wondering why the nickname Kitten isn't banned yet. Honestly, I didn't love Kitten as a pet name personally, but it fits for these characters. At the same time, like she calls him baby girl. What do you mean you're a romance author, yet you can't write chemistry, fleshed out characters, or banter that wouldn't be embarrassing to read? Okay, disagree across the board. Maisie Eddings deserves more respect than that. Yep, here we go. Here we go. This is what I expected. I am on such a streak of bad books, I can't take it. Here's another. I could not stand the female main character, Eva. She was so mean and immature and apparently had zero idea how to use her phone. Oops, I posted a video I shouldn't have and now it's gone viral. That's not what happened. She's drunk. Oops, I accidentally had Alexa send a text to the MMC, Riley, describing his anatomy while she was in the shower. Babes. That's just utilizing things for comedy. Like, come on, man. And why did Riley or Cooper, the names were interchangeable, which drove me nuts? Again, like, I guess, did I just hang out with too many, like, sports people in high school? Because I knew many people whose names were, like, equally interchangeable first and last very often. And why did Riley still have feelings for her? I don't get it. She was so horrible to him. Like I said, you have to accept characters who are a little mean to each other. The banter wasn't there. The chemistry wasn't there. He was trying too hard to win her back, and I was bored. I thought it was going to have Rachel Lynn Solomon's The X Talk vibe. Sadly, this didn't come close. Oh, this person DNF'd it. Okay. Yeah, like that was exactly the kind of complaints I was expecting. But oh yeah, okay. This was just as much fun as I thought it was gonna be. Hurt my feelings like once or twice. Oh, okay, that was entertaining. So on that note, that is officially it for today, y'all. But I am actually planning to film another one of these, and I'm gonna be reading 5-star reviews of some of my not finished books for the year, which will be very interesting. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And on that note, that's officially it for today, y'all. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's do a bear emoji. Let's do a bear emoji in the comments. I have links to all of my socials as well as a few ways you can support me down in the description. I come out videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!